Nimbula, welcome again to another season of the JustPeace Talanoa BURE at COVID-19 with Transcend Oceania, engaging with youths, community leaders, leaders of today and tomorrow, creating a non-isolation platform together with our collective voices during the pandemic 2021. With Transcend Oceania, building JustPeace communities in changing environment and climate, engaging at the forefront of humanitarian capacity in response to climate change, and now the pandemic in Fiji is more so about engaging in partnerships with collaborative efforts as we strive together for inclusive JustPeace communities, upholding preventative measures and protocol for sustainable well-being, personal health, and human security. In Fiji, we embrace our diversity and cultural values of communal rallies and manage along in maintaining good, healthy practices and isolations as much as we can. Greater challenges were faced during the close down of communities and of businesses that impacted people with job losses, the sudden changes that happened as people turned to land, seeking alternative livelihoods, and domestic travel ban, meeting basic needs. People of special needs, the elderly, and the children are placed further at risk with high numbers of COVID-positive cases, as well as conflicts and violence. Conflict over resources and gender-based violence. It is said that we continue to see rising number of women affected on a day-to-day basis with domestic violence, even more during the pandemic. With creative approaches of engagements to building peace, safety, and security, we transcend Oceania by advancing sustainable peace through justice and nonviolence. Fiji, here at the JustPeace Talanoa BURE at COVID-19. Join us here with respective leaders and invited guests, hosted by Ms. Justine Maravu, the project officer at Transcend Oceania, who will be hosting the show. Vinakawa Kalevu. Welcome to the JustPeace Talanoa BURE at COVID-19, a platform that brings together community representatives, leaders, women and youth to share stories and priorities that holds value to them, their people, and Vanua. Through their experiences, there is also lessons learned, recommendations, possible solutions, and plans to the current situation. Joining me today are Navitalai Navara, a youth representative from Nakasaleka, Kadavu, and Mr. Ilaitia Vutovuto, a youth worker from Vatukalo, Levuka, Ovalau. Welcome to the JustPeace Talanoa BURE. Yes. Navi and Ilaitia, tell us, what do you most value about your culture? What are some of the traditional practices that the older generation value most from your community?
Thank you, sir. One of the things that I've seen that have been practiced along the way from the generations to generation passed down from what I see from our grandfathers to where I am now, is that we have always believed in working together as a community, working together through our families, working together through any obstacles that we have come across. And that's what have held our Itoke traditional values to a core. And in the meaning of that, not only that we see that in the practices of our land, the use of our land, whereby we keep our land for future generations to use. Some may say, or the outsiders may say, when they see the Itoke traditional system, they say that the land that is being left idle is just there, just no one is going to use it. But what our generation or what our forefathers has been practicing is that those land are used for future generations. They will be using this particular piece of land now and the other in the future generation, so that it does not spoil. It connects from one generation to the other, whereby food is not a problem, whereby land is not a problem. And that is something that we have practiced in my village for such a long time. Thank you.
Nakanavi?
Thank you, Navi. Thank you, sir. Like Navi have already mentioned some of the main values that we can say about, like especially for the Itauke people. For me, coming from the village and living in a village in Levuka, in Ovalau village, some of the things that are really important and are really valued, what our ancestors really valued, is some of the things that I can say is culture. That are some of the things. One of the most thing that my ancestors and some of my ancestors they valued is culture, and another thing is the surrounding, our surrounding that surround us every day. It cares and it take care of us through a long period of time, and there are some of the things like Navi already mentioned, the land and some of other things that he already mentioned before. I can say is culture. Those are some of the things, like living in a community, the Biokani relationship in the community where people respect each other, and those are some of the things that are very are valuable in living in a community.
Just to add on what Naita said, there's a Fijian saying that goes, "Nayaunga never come," and that is one of the values that we have taken down from generation to generations, that our treasures or our wealth is not from materialistic things, but it is from the relatives that we have. Because at the end of the day, if something goes wrong, our bond between family, our bond between our villages, our ties between my Tavus or my Neita or my Matangale or my Chikinas, that is what have held our Itoke structure for such a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. From what you have shared, what are some of the emerging issues of concern that you see in the changes that are happening today, and who are the most affected from your group perspectives and broader community?
What I could say is that the major changes that the major problem that the Pacific faces nowadays is climate change, and there's no way around this. It has been here for the past 100 years. It has been here for the past 200 years, for the past 300 years. That climate change is not a myth, and we take it for granted. Meaning, we pollute our oceans. Factories emit dangerous or harmful gases into the atmosphere, causing damages to our ozone layer, which affects majority to the rise of the sea level and all this. Yet what we do not seem to think about is that this will directly affect the future generations. It's affecting us now. The actions that was made 50 years ago, 100 years ago is affecting us now. Where the sea level had been from before, it is no longer where it is now. It is more. It has now taken some parts of our land. And if we fail to realize this, in the future it will happen. And in my community in Kadavu, what I can say is that the fishing spots that were there, that used to be the fishing spot, when we opened, say, number one is no longer that fishing spot. 10 years ago, it's no longer. And the actions that were made by my forefathers, or the people of the world, or the Pacific, or the people within urban areas, pollution and all these things, it has taken a toll, and therefore it's affecting me now. And the generation now, what they do now will affect the generation that's coming now. Thank you.
Thank you, Navi. You mentioned about climate change. There's something I need to say is that if you are saying climate change is not real, I can say it's real. It happens in my village. And in 2016, the biggest and the strongest hurricane that hits Fiji was Winston. And that is one of the strongest and what have changed a lot of things in my community. It changes my surrounding, it changes the community living, it changes where are some of the things that restores the variable and the value of the soil and the value of the fish living in the ocean. That changes a lot of things. like it takes out some of our resources, and it changes some of the things that our ancestors used to live on, our ancestors used to depend on, and it has devastated a lot of things. Like if you go now to my village, a few months ago we have been experiencing the rising of sea level. It has, like, during my childhood time, the sea wasn't going inside my village. Nowadays, a few months ago, it has been start coming inside and in my community, in my village, where the rising of sea levels used to stop. Nowadays, it has gone past that stopping place before, and nowadays, it's gone into the village, and some of the houses has been destroyed, and the seawall and the roads. Those are some of the things that we have been experiencing, especially the small island like us in Levuka. Those are some of the things.
Just to add on from what you said, just about natural disasters. During the natural disasters, biosecurity or the food is one of the main problems now, and we are nearing these cyclone times, where November to April, and we're speaking because we are the ones who's coming from those islands that have experienced more cyclones from last year until this year. And that is one of the things that we see, in that during cyclones, the help that we receive from here, from the main or the central government, is that there isn't enough. That's what we're trying to say.
Thank you. We have now come to the end of our first segment. Please stay with us. We will be back. Welcome back. Continuing with our discussion, Navi, looking back 5 to 10 years ago, what has changed and why?
Just setting an example in Nakasaleka, 5 or 10 years ago, Slovakia has never really meant that much till what we are experiencing now. In the past 10 years, most people had worked towards their own wealth, towards everything that they believed, even though traditionally Slovakia is one of our core values and traditions, and our cultures, where we believe by working with each other. Na Slovakia, Navitalai Navara Jnr, for us to grow our wealth through working together in a big number. And due to COVID, when COVID came and it hit our shores, and it has really impacted us, and that affected our food security. That's how our village saw it when it came, because at the time there was no food that was coming from the ships. There was no ships coming to Kadavu, even though there's money there, but there was no change. The barter or the trade was not happening, whereby we send our grub for the money and buy our food. And at that time, our leaders saw it fit for us to come together as a community, to plant together, fish together. And that's what's happening now. And we are practicing those values that we didn't think that was that important. But now we are, due to our tradition. And that is about it.
Thank you.
Like Anita, some of the things that are really happening now in my community, I'm just going to share a lot about my community, because I come from a community surrounding, and there are a lot of things that changes, like I already mentioned before about the devastations of Hurricane Winston in 2016. There has been a lot of changes since from that 2016 and today, and again, and the outbreak of COVID-19 has been going on in our community, and especially in the Fiji Island, and it has been affecting us too in the outer islands. A few weeks ago, there has been 2 COVID cases in Levuka, and that's where everything has been stopped. Like, where everyone has to talk about something like living in a community, there used to be a Mboseva Koro, and that has been stopped. And where people talk about something and share about a lot of things, living in a community where we work together, has been cancelled. And going to church, where people have to attend in spiritual ways, and that has been stopped. And some of the things that I can say has been a big issue, especially if you are leading in some of the groups in the community. That are some of the things that I can say that has been and communications of staying in the village. Like communication is some of the things that helps a lot in working together. And like Naita has already been mentioned about the Solsolevaki. When the positive cases came to Levuka, it has stopped that work together. Like the Solsolevaki has been stopped. A few days ago, I've been speaking to the Turani Koro in my village, and they said this is one of the difficult times that he's been facing, where people just do their own thing because they know COVID-19 is there. There are restrictions they have to follow, and he have to take care of the community, the cleaning of the community, and the Mboseva Koro has been cancelled and has been stopped. And these are some of the challenges that we're facing and living in the village right now.
Thank you so much for sharing your concern on the issues of climate change and COVID-19. Just continuing with our discussion, from your experience and based on what you have shared, what are the gaps and processes that are working within your district or community, whether it's traditional or community-led approaches? And what are some of the challenges that you see as a young person from Kadavu and from Levuka? Ilaitia?
Thank you, Sil. Some of the biggest challenges right now, I can say, is the young generation. Like they are experiencing something that we didn't experience that time where we grew up as a child, in the childhood, and the COVID-19 has came in, and natural disaster have been happening, climate change has been happening, and what our concern as villages, staying in the village, what our biggest concern is what can be done and what has to be changed and what can help us to protect our community and protect our relationship and living together in a community and as a family. And there are gaps that I can say is the district, those people who's been working in the government, and those people are working and taking care of us in the outer islands, and the communications from those people to us. Those are some of the gaps that we can say. Like for me, staying in the island, if we asking for something for the government and for the province council, if we would like to ask something, that'll take a lot of time for us to wait. And like we already mentioned, I already said before, climate change, it does happen, and I believe in it. And what can be done and what needs to be done to stop that disaster has been happening in my village, Seru.
Thank you, Navi.
But I can say, through this pandemic, the government has put into place its own process and procedures, and my village has done the same to protect its members from the disease. As you can see that the disease is quite life-threatening, and I know that the people in my village, they are not well informed of how harmful this disease is, but they can see the numbers rising, and by the numbers, they begin to fear about this disease. Therefore, if even I've been here for more than 4 months, from just to be here to come and learn on a few things about women, and I've been stuck here ever since that time. And it's been hard for me as an individual that lives in the village, and I'm trying to go back to Kadavu, but the procedures that has been put in place. And that is something I'm quite thankful about as well, just to protect our islands, that the government and my village has put on its own precautionary measure in relations to protecting its people, in relations to protecting me before I come over. And through that, I believe Kadavu has also been one of those islands that has the vaccine has already touched. I was reported that. And through that, we're quite happy how the government has moved in to enlighten, educate the people of Kadavu in relation to this pandemic.
We have come to the end of our second segment. Stay with us. We will be back. Welcome back. Thank you, Navi and Ilaitia. We will continue with our conversation. Navi, what recommendations would you suggest for positive change that you and your community would like to see happen for effective results, looking at community, district, provincial, or even regional?
I can only speak where I am staying from. I can speak on behalf of Kadavu, whereby medical facilities is less, whereby the government has not provided us with the right facilities for us to facilitate our women to give birth, or to provide a facility whereby when a child has an infection or an appendix, we have to send them straight to Suva. And that's the dangers that I see as a youth from Kadavu. That's what I see. That truly we have entered the 21st century, whereby the medical supplies in Kadavu, even though it's an island, it's supposed to have upgraded from what we had 20 years ago, and that has not happened. And yet we still in my district in Nakasaleka, there's only one doctor which is servicing about more than 5,000 people. And with that, the numbers does not add up to the one doctor. And if the one doctor is on leave, how can we deal with that? What I can say is my recommendation is for the government to increase more doctors in Kadavu, to increase the medical facilities, the equipments that are being used, so that operations can happen in Kadavu. Because like a few months ago, someone died just being transported by the helicopter to come and get an appendix here. Someone nearly died. And those are the problems that we face there. True, it might not be substantial as the problems of what other peoples in Fiji are facing, but that is one thing that I've seen. Then in Kadavu, we lack medical facilities and equipments. Thank you.
Thank you, Navi. Ilaitia?
Thank you, Seru. Some of the things that I would like to share is like we were saying, and we were talking about climate change. The biggest concern and the biggest issue is happening now in my island is climate change. And our roads is running like just like 5 meters away from the sea. And the biggest problem now is for us, because we travel a lot in the road, and we just walk around on the road all the time. And the biggest thing that is happening now is the rising of the sea level, and it has been destroying a lot of things, and destroying our shores, destroying our villages as well. So the biggest concern now is for the government. Please, if anyone who is listening now can help us in rebuilding the seawall and protect our village and protect our generation from what is happening and what we are facing right now, and what changes can be done, and anything, if you could come up with any help to help us protect our island, protect our village, and protect our surrounding, it would be a greatest honor for us, and at this very hard time that we are facing now. And again, and I would like to mention about COVID-19 has been happening. I've been stuck in here in Suva since the first month of lockdown, and I would like to go and see my family. And it has been a long period of time that I'm staying here, staying in the relatives, and it's not just like if you're staying at home. If everyone could get vaccinated, it's our way back home, and it would be a great honor for me to thank everyone if you get vaccinated as soon as possible. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Nita. Okay, so is there anything else you would like to share to our listeners and to our viewers tuning in right now?
Thank you, Seru. As I already mentioned, I've been stuck here in Suva for quite a long time, and I have my family to take care of, and I have my parents who are staying in the village, and I'm the only one who's taking care of them, and I need to go back home. And I've been stuck in, so there's nothing else I could do. I'm just going to have to wait when the government is going to open the borders and when everyone's going to get vaccinated. And I don't know when that's going to happen. I'm just urging everyone, if you haven't get vaccinated, please do, because we need to go back to our family.
Nakaneta, Navi?
For me, one message I would like to tell the listeners out there, my advice, is that when you strive to believe into something that you fight for, you must fight for it. Whether if it's your rights to be heard, whether it is your rights to stop a problem, it is within your rights. And I believe in these dark times that we belong to a democratic nation, whereby we, the citizens, have the power for that change to happen. The people that represent us in the government are there because of us. And that is something that we fail to realize as a people of a democratic nation. That we feel the people in the government are just leaders, that they direct our path. But the power is that we have with the citizens. If those citizens believe that you're fully represented, then voice it out in the next election. And that's my message, that we should stand for what we believe in, stand for who you believe in and who you are, and keep fighting that good fight. Thank you.
Thank you, Navi, and thank you, Ilaitia, for joining us today. Thank you to the viewers for tuning in to our JustPeace Talanoa BURE at COVID-19.
As we conclude our JustPeace Talanoa BURE at COVID-19 with Navitalai Navara and Ilaitia Vutovuto, we are reminded once again to enable people living just peace and nonviolence in Oceania. We need to be both mindful and inclusive, hold vital respect for others' safety and needs within the limited space we share. As we maintain social distancing as much as we can, home isolation may be tough while caring for each other, and at the same time, our need for peace and stability in our homes, communities, and the nation at large. I'm Adi Vasulevu. Join us again at the same time next week on JustPeace Talanoa BURE at COVID-19.